Hi there, traders. This is Brad Gilbert with FX Market Insight for Friday, the 12th of June. All right, now finally got my desktop computer back and just having a look at the currencies on the charts here. Let me just change that over. Coming along to the analyst picks, I've been off air pretty much, obviously for most of the week, but even limited time on the screens. Just having a look, they've all worked come into play. Well, almost exactly as I thought. Like sterling, which initially came down on the first sort of trend line and then sort of bounced aggressively. That's now gone sort of right down. It's still going up on the daily charts and down on the hourlies. Now that's a sideways movement that is very hard to sort of predict what's going to happen next. Whereas the other pairs are sort of coming back into, like you've got the trend. Okay, we saw that obviously the week before on a lot of these pairs. And now we've had the retracement, Aussie and Kiwi in particular. Euro sideways, but a little bit of retracement as well. Dollar yen's just continued down, and then you've seen dollar CAD just shoot to the top side. So it's a little bit of a funny one. After the Fed, right, you've got the market's still trying to work out when are the macroeconomic fundamentals going to come into play. And that's the thing I'm sort of trying to gauge, and I'm fielding a lot of questions about that. The answer is they'll probably come into play very quickly, right? Sporadically, like the geopolitical situations, except we know when they're going to come out. Then they'll pop in, they'll pop out until all of a sudden there's a continuation of impact from the fundamentals. Now, like the uncertainty around all these economies opening is creating a lack of fluid trend, right? The UK economy shrinks by a record 20.4%. I mean, we all know the stats that are going to come out of this are all going to be record breaking, right? So don't get sucked into all the drama that's going to come up on these news wires. You know, Hong Kong, China, US, China. We've got a lot of things to sort of work through as we go forward. Now, just having a look at the US dollar itself, right? This is where you've got to start to have a question. I'll show you the FX Market Insight in just a second, but you know, we've got this nice downtrend. You can see where everything's sort of nicely come into play. We've got this little break back above that resistance line. Now, this is coming into a level where it's really uncertain. This is where a big US number, like the non-farm payrolls or something like that, CPI, obviously, which usually comes out like a Tuesday, would be ideal, because what we're looking for is the US dollar trend continuing. Is this movement here on the dollar index, is that just a false break? Take out a few weak stops and go from there. To me, it looks like it, right? Very much so. And that's because, I mean, it's gone through around 40, 96.40. It's gone up, 50 points. It's taking out some stops and it's stalling. If anything, it's sort of just rolling over. This is lacking momentum. It lacks a genuine move, right? So for me, when I come back to the charts and I think, well, what's going on here? Well, I'd always favor the recent trend. I know it has been up on a lot of pairs, the US dollar down. This is just a retrace, take out some weak stops. And to me, all things being equal, right, these currencies should continue back higher. But one thing we know at the moment with this pandemic and everything else, the geopolitical backdrop is anything but equal, right? And that's where the tricky part comes in. Now, to me, euro, it's come back. You can see the price action around that trend line. The market is recognizing it. No one really wants to sell. No one wants to buy it. No one really wants to do too much at all. Now, sterling, to me, broken down, as I said, on the hourlies, still on the upside on the daily. So that's a little bit too hard for my liking, as is dollar CAD up on the hourlies, still down on the dailies. Dollar yen, well, it's lower on sort of both time frames. So maybe there's a chance for down. I don't know. There's put it this way. There's a little bit too much uncertainty for me. But what I do know, focus on the things that you do know and you can control. Underneath these trend lines, right? So the Aussies had a good uptrend. Sure, there's some stops taken out. You can see it holding on that support line. Underneath these support trend lines, there will be stop losses. So there's a chance for a run through those. Now, sterling's already gone through. So don't worry about that one. And same with dollar CAD. I wouldn't be worrying about that. And dollar yen's in the middle of nowhere as well. So to me, potentially, right, the pairs here, Aussie is either going to bounce, Kiwi's going to bounce with it, and euro, or these pairs are going to break down through these short-term trend lines, and we're going to get a flush out of the final positions that haven't been taken out from the recent uptrend will be flushed out. So that's, to me, it's uncertain, but it does create opportunities, right, around that. So if I just bring you back to the daily market insight, now once again, like technically, yeah, the currencies are trading quite well, right? Very nice. But what we're looking for is, and this is where it gets a little bit weird, usually by Friday, the markets are sort of moving and we're waiting for something big to come out. What we've got in this situation is that US dollar down trend diffusing, and we've got a lot of uncertainty. To me, we've got some pairs with direction still, like short-term trends and what have you, but the overall direction, a lot of these pairs is uncertain. Dollar Swiss, to me, is the one pair that looks like it just wants to go down. And maybe that's to do with the sort of safe haven situation, right? So dollar yen's lower, the Swiss is lower. To me, that's a safe haven trade. If there's uncertainty in the global economics, I think we could possibly see the US dollar surge as the US dollar safe haven comes back in. But what we need is, you need some serious uncertain news or uncertain conditions. Now, an increase in coronavirus infections and all this sort of stuff would be interesting, but just keep an eye on the news, because this is where, unfortunately, the breaking news or the geopolitical news is going to come into play. You come back and have a look at what major macroeconomic numbers are coming out. Now, these aren't really coming into play. There's not a huge amount right at the moment, so don't get overly excited. Euro industrial production. Now, you know what? These numbers you'd have to expect will be really weak. Maybe that's the little extra bit of the puzzle that we need to give that euro a kick down through that support trend line around 112.80. All right. And then you've got the prelim University of Michigan consumer sentiment numbers. In good markets, that could really impact, but that's all she wrote for this week. So not a huge amount there. Is the dollar going to bounce or not? I tell you what, I'm not exactly sure. Looking at the dollar index there, it's broken higher. Okay, a slight takeout of some positions. But where does it go from here? The one piece of information we're lacking is the momentum. Which side, where is the momentum going to come from? And it's a little bit tricky for my liking. But good to be back online. Everything will be back to normal next week. And yeah, if you're trading, I'd say have a crack, but don't go for the big winners, because all the ducks aren't lining up just at the moment. Have a good trade day. Cheerio.